So we've already spoken about the first 4 of the 6 core ideas. The real world, green face meals, start with the body, and for everyone, forever. Next time we'll cover the 6th and final idea, a network of elites. But right now we'll explore idea number 5, the enemy is you. With this idea we're going to talk about your thoughts, your mind, and your sense of self. But first, we have to start with the body, because a number of things come together uniquely in the bodies of human beings. Before we even begin to attempt to comprehend how our minds work, we must understand the physical hardware that constrains the software of our consciousness. The way we think is primarily informed by the physical world and how our animal body is specifically made to fit into it. The energies that determine the form and development of things in the real world also knit together our muscles, nervous system, and brain. Every thought you have is also shaped by these forces because it has to run on this real world physical platform. So let's begin by acknowledging a couple of things that human beings do a bit differently when it comes to their bodies and brains. Firstly, we eat an omnivorous diet of green face meals made from both plants and animals. Your mind therefore runs on the kind of brain required to feed your omnivorous body, adapted for both hunting and gathering. With your hunting brain at one extreme, you can experience the stubborn, oppressive trap of applying strict, fixed identification. And with your gathering brain at the other extreme, you can experience an overwhelming, infinite mess of contemplating every available possibility. But with both of these sides of the brain interacting with each other, you can play between these extremes, contemplating the possible and identifying the actual. This is how healthy human thought usually operates, in a balance that's neither excessively overloaded nor excessively compulsive. With these opposing processes at work, we continuously update our understanding of the world as we gather information and hunt for ways to fit it into what we already know. By joining in with this process, our minds slowly build up an increasingly accurate picture of how the body is fitting into the environment. This is why it's so important to do things in the real world. The world you live in doesn't just show you how to understand the surroundings, but also how to understand yourself. Secondly, as human beings, we live in community with one another. We share the tasks of living between us and pass knowledge on to each other by showing and telling. Because of this, we're not forced into only doing what's good for us in the moment or learning only from our own experience. We distribute our thinking across the group and across generations. So the sum of our collective capabilities are far greater than the achievements of any single individual. By communicating and collaborating with each other, we can think much further into the future, not just doing things for our own immediate advantage, but for everyone, forever. In combination, these particular features allow human beings to develop a very unique kind of thinking that perceives the world through identity. An identity is a kind of plan. We use experiences to build up a picture of ourselves in real time. We call this picture I or me. We identify with it. We then go beyond that and use that picture to predict the future based on the results of our previous experiences. This is a super quick way to decide what to do next without having to newly assess every experience individually. This is how we navigate the world and steer ourselves towards more experiences we want and fewer experiences we don't. But we then go even further. By learning from experiences we are shown and told by other people, we can update our pictures by copying others, greatly increasing the amount of information we are building our identities from. By borrowing our identities from the group, instead of relying only on our individual experience, we also avoid the need for excessive risk, ensuring safety and success. We do this in our own lives by listening to inspiring stories, celebrating cultural heroes, studying historical events, watching fictional characters, hearing persuasive speeches, having friends we look up to, reading helpful books and articles, and learning from people we know, like, and trust. I call this rider training. Our urges and emotions can carry our thinking mind into situations we don't want. We can react like a big, dumb elephant. But we can also steer ourselves in the right direction like an elephant rider by learning from others to inform our identity and motivate ourselves to act according to a plan. But every plan is a guess, and sometimes we get it wrong. So our minds are made up from not just one, but a whole landscape of identities. These identities interact, come together, overlap, and break apart like a swirling cloud moving in and out of view in your mind's eye, guiding you towards different possible ways of being. The identities of your friends, your family, the people you read about in books and watch in movies, all the people you have ever met, and every identity you can imagine join the identities formed from memories of who we were before. Some align and call you forwards towards the things that are good for everyone forever. These identities are your friends, so it's good to keep your attention on these ways of being. Some break off and lead you astray towards the things that distract you from that eternal good path. These identities are your enemies, so it's good to avoid these ways of being. But it's not always easy to tell which is which. Every time you act in a way that seems right in the moment, you're guessing which identity is good to step into and call I or me. But when we do things in the real world, we might find that an identity has, in reality, led us on a path towards something unhealthy. As you attempt to join the process that takes you forwards towards the best possible outcome, you might discover the identity you are following is actually taking you in the wrong direction. When things don't go the way we expect them to go, it's very easy to blame others, but more often than not, it's you who has adopted an identity that brought you into this situation. Surprise, the enemy is you. And the only way to get out of it is to let go of your current identity and take on a new way of being. Unfortunately, just like a lot of things in the real world, it's difficult to discard an old identity because it leaves you with two big problems. One, you don't get to have the things your old identity was offering. And two, you have to choose another identity from the landscape of possibilities. There's always a reason you decided to follow the old identity, and it's because the enemy promised you an old reward. Maybe it was money, fame, a moment of happiness, freedom from pain. A lot of things can make the old identity seem good at the time. If you turn away from that old life, you're also turning away from those promises. And in those moments where you discover you have been cheated by the enemy, you will find it even harder to trust the promises offered by another identity. For these reasons, it can often feel easier to keep believing in the promise of the old rewards and the certainty of holding on to the identity you are already in. But if you understand the enemy is you, in the moments you discover you are wrong about the best way to be, it becomes easier to avoid that identity and quickly establish a new path to follow, turning back towards the rewards that are not just good for you for now, but good for everyone forever. This is a cyclical process, opening up your mind to seek out the best identity you can find, like a gatherer looking for good plants to eat, closing in your focus and executing that idea in the real world, like a hunter chasing down an animal. This turns the motor that moves you forwards in life, repeatedly switching between these open and closed modes. The more willing we are to drop an identity that's taking us in the wrong direction, the more freely that motor can spin, moving us forwards with greater speed and momentum. When you're comfortable with the idea that the enemy is you, the identities that hold you back stop looking so attractive, and it no longer feels worth it to hold on to them so tightly. The enemy is you is one of the 6 core ideas that drive what I do at gymnasion.net. This is the 5th part in a series expanding on each of the 6 core ideas. The next part in this series is titled A Network of Elites. With this idea, I will explore how people who actively choose to make things better can work together. Have you ever found it difficult to escape an old way of being, even when you know it's taking you down the wrong path? Are there any specific people in your life, real or fictional, that are influencing you to move forwards in the right direction? Comment below or send me a message. My handle is @gymnasionuk on YouTube, Twitter, Substack, and Instagram. Like, comment, share, bookmark so you don't miss the next post, and take a look at gymnasion.net for free stuff to help you with your health and fitness. See ya!